Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm here to fight CPS and hang on to your children. You found the right spot. You found me on Facebook, Fighting CPS with Bob Pace. I'm broadcasting on um, YouTube live, and I'm using the StreamYard application. I'm on twice a day, 7 days a week. I come on typically at 10 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time and 7 o'clock at night for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. That's twice a day, 14 shows. And typically I've been coming on Saturday morning early to give room for Vincent's podcast, but he has another podcast that went on at 8 o'clock this morning. So they told me to come on at 10 o'clock. And I guess the other podcast, um, you can watch that too, but I'm here to help you. And, um, I'm not an attorney. I'm a loving father, family man, been married 42 years, and have six children, three older grown up children and three younger children. And so I have a lot of experiences, and I too was caught up in CPS and had a very tragic event to my CPS case. Um, what happened there uh, was very terrible. I lost a home that I worked for 45 years. I lost my children, three younger children. Fortunately, I got two of them back. And they're so corrupt that they did revenge and they stole my youngest daughter. And that's hard when you have three girls and three boys and you love them all. And me and my wife were really struggling. It was a hard thing to face. It happened to me shortly after I had lost my job through no fault of my own. And at age 60, it's hard when you work for 45 years and you suddenly don't have a job. And it's even harder when they take your kids. Our kids were taken in 2015 at age 65. But from 2010 to 2015, the child protection system is what I call it. It's the agency that is supposed to protect our children. It's a government agency, part of social services, supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Also, is supposed to help out families in need of food, clothing, welfare, transportation, education, medical, and finding a job. And furthermore, if they have to remove your child, then the child is, taken right away into foster care. And that they're only supposed to remove a child if the child's in imminent danger. My children weren't. And this is repeated about over 600 people I've talked to. And I've talked to everybody in the United States, all 50 states. In fact, I've talked to the world. I've talked to 17 countries, some of them two or three times. And these countries have the same problem as we all do in the United States, a very corrupt, a very abusive child protection system. And so the CPS thing goes on and on. There's different names, acronyms for them in different counties, different states. Some of it's called Child Protection Services, even a county to county, like from Orange County, which I'm in next door to LA County. It's called the Department of Children and Family Services. So I just use CPS. It's the easiest way to do it. And so I am, I'm here to help you and maybe help you with things that I wish I'd known when I first started got involved in CPS. Because when you're involved with CPS, it's a nightmare. I was being accused by laymen. I did not know that. They're actually my wife's mother and father and their three sisters and her brother. Once a week, they'd call in from Ohio and say that we're doing something wrong with our children. They're very mean to us all the time. I've known them. They didn't come to our wedding, 35 years ago, 32 years ago, and so they've always been interested in our children, and I don't know why. My wife was abused by them growing up, and she had a misunfortunate time too. She's had some really traumatic experiences. So now we're caught with this agency that has gone really bad. They're rogue. Orange County is very corrupt in my case. Also, the case is over 600 people from across the country, from Rosebud Reservation, the home of the Lakota Sioux in South Dakota, or you know, Oklahoma or Florida, or Missouri. It seems like all the people that call in have one thing in common: how much that CPS abuses them and does not do family reunification or help them. And it's hard because when Clinton signed into law the Incentive Act, where they're paid so much more money to get children adopted than they are to do family reunification, it's really hurt family reunification because family reunification, they've found that the best parents are the biological parents. So they're supposed to, if they break the family apart and the parents do parenting classes and do programs, drug abuse, or whatever like that. They're supposed to try to get the family to come back together. That should be the number one goal, not the money of having adoption and foster care. And foster care has become so abusive. Children are temporarily taking care of them, and the children of the foster care parents bully the children that are taken care of. The children are molested by the father, they're abused by the mother. There's so many histories and cases that I've heard, and it's sad because I know that exactly where you're at with your children. So I'm here to help you. I have 5 rules that will help you with your CPS case. There are 4 ways to interact with this podcast. I want it to be you guys participating. What I mean by that is that you got this first room where you drop in and you can do emojis. I love emojis. I already see your hands up. Thank you. And then you can send me stars. And then also you can check below that you want to follow me, which is great. And then if you want to be notified, check that below. But another way you can interact, the second way is by texting me messages, either in the form of questions or comments about your CPS case. Please show me your first name, your city or county your case was in, and the state that you're from. Now, if you're from outside of the United States, one of the countries from Bangladesh to India to the Middle East to Africa to Europe to North America to South America, and then across Pacific to Australia and New Zealand. Um, Please show me your provinces and your country also, because I would like to see that too. Now, I want to welcome Angel Gone Wild. Thank you for joining me. Uh, no more time wasted. Help me. I want to help you. Um, you're from Calhoun County in Alabama. Okay. And I want to help you, Angel. As I was saying, my second way is to text me a message or comment like you did. That is good, and then also try to be complete with your CPS case. A third way is if you want to schedule a to be a guest on my podcast. All you have to do is email my show producer, and that is Grace. And uh, she's at Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And send her one of my 14 times. You pick it morning, afternoon, and Saturday, or Saturday through Sunday, or whatever day of the week. And she'll put you on there. She'll give you the link, and that's your link. If you get knocked off, reuse it again. It's good for the show. She'll tell you the do's and don'ts of your case. Now, the last way to interact, the fourth way, is to call me. I'm live. You can call me on my office phone at 626-698-0990. And that phone is available to talk to me during my show hours. If you call before my show hours or after my show hours, I'm not available. I can't take the call. But please call in that number. I'd love to have you. Also, by you calling in and talking on the phone, on speakerphone, or being a guest on my podcast, you qualify for a free 15-minute session with Mr. Davis. You just heard about him in his question and answers podcast today, and he gave you a message about joining him. All those two websites too. One is the register for the podcast. The other one is register as a school member of Vincent Davis. And that same message um, will run again at the conclusion of my podcast. But when you talk to me on the phone or be a guest, you qualify for a free 15-minute session with Mr. Davis. All you need to do is tell me you like to do that, and then I'll ask you for your name, email, and phone number. You text it to me, and then I contact Grace, my show producer. We'll make arrangements with you and Mr. Davis to have a private one-on-one consultation on Zoom, and you can talk about anything you like, but try to work it ahead of time and have your what you want to talk to him. And question-wise, ask him because he is one of the best uh, juvenile family dependency lawyers. You're in the area of dependency law, dealing with families and juveniles. And Mr. Davis has been doing it for 35 years, and he's also a trial attorney. If your case is closed, he can sue you, civil, not you, but can sue CPS, make a civil lawsuit. And he's won many a civil lawsuit, both in state and federal court, and won millions of dollars. So he's the real deal. In fact, that's how you would really want to look for an attorney. First, are they a juvenile family dependency lawyer? And then second, have they ever fought and beaten CPS in a civil lawsuit? If the answer to that question is yes, yes, I think you found yourself a good attorney because most attorneys will not fight CPS in civil lawsuits. A lot of them say, oh, yeah, I know all about CPS, but they don't. They'll waste your money and your time. Also, you may think about you want to use your court appointed attorney. Well, a court appointed attorney is really a band aid effect. The court appointed attorney is someone who just started in law. They mostly have a criminal background. They don't know what dependency law is. And they work for social service. They get paid. So they're not going to work for you. They're not going to fight you. The caseload is 30 more clients because they're dealing with everybody there. So all they do is they push paper around and in the case, not your best interests. So they're not really the ones that will fight you and do that. So as I explained to you, that you need to have a real fighter. He's a pit bull of attorney, and he knows how to fight and get your kids back. Um, we have another guest here, B. Gress. It says CPS must corrupt. Yes, I know they're corrupt, and I'm trying to tell you heads of times. There are 5 rules that I use. One is you have to get a real attorney, and I mean a dependency family law attorney, real deal. Your court appointed won't work um, because fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. You need an expert, like a doctor who's gone to medical school, done an internship, and that could have your case well represented and fight because they're not transparent. They are retaliation. Mine actually helped lose my 12-year-old daughter. And um, having an attorney, a real attorney, is only going to get your child back because you, like Alice in Wonderland, you've fallen in the rabbit hole and you don't know where you're heading off to. You meet the Cheshire Cat and they send you to one room after the next. So I'm telling you, you really need a real attorney. Mr. Davis works out of Arcadia, which is south of LA, and he has cases in Orange County, LA County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Shasta County up in Northern California. Plus, he has a case in Oklahoma. He will work other states and so forth. The only additional expense is that when he goes out of state or far from the office, he has per diem, which is your ground transportation, your air transportation, and your hotel and your food. Those are things that he has added to your legal costs. Legal costs, whether you're fighting in California or in Maine, are the same. Um, Brian says CPS Garden of Light lied to me, age 8 years old. Yeah, that's the sad part about. Let me put that up there so that people can see what you're writing. Yeah, the Guardian of Light is like a casa person. It's somebody who's supposed to be your friend. All they are is ears, extra ears for CPS workers to use against you. And if you're in foster care at 8 years old, it's going to be bad when you grow up. And yes, there are pedophiles that you find in foster care, and there's CPS workers that are pedophile. There was one gentleman who went to investigate a 13-year-old girl at the high school and asked her to take her clothes off so he could take pictures of the bruises. But it's very strange because he was immediately fired. You don't do that with a 13-year-old girl. And you got to be in twos anyway. And then they retaliated against the mother and had her being accused of inappropriate actions with her daughter. CPS is really strange. They work in really weird ways. Work in really weird ways. I don't know how old are you now, B. Gress? Um, you said at age 8 years old. So how old are you? And you're still in the system, and that's sad. Children have reached out to me on this podcast. Not only the parents and grandparents, but I've also heard from children on here. Um, you're 61. Well, okay. Well, if you told the truth, I don't know how they would put you back in the system because they stop at age 18, and that is bad that you're bringing that up. But I know that sometimes things take a hard time to talk about. Brian, where are you about located in this world? Um, just need to know where you're at so I get an idea. Um, we have Angel that you can ask me any questions. You can call in or anything there. We're talking about my rules now. Rule number 2 is to organize your documents. Make sure that they're in a notebook and you have subject dividers and plain notebook paper to write on. And it's a thick notebook, something like 3 inches thick and 3 ring. There's where you can put all your court papers and organize them. But one of the most important documents I find, it's called the incident timeline. The incident timeline is every incident that happens, you track it. It's well important to document it. And so you do on the first line of your paper, you put the name, the time, the date, the location, and the people that are involved. The second line, you put the description of the incident in one sentence. And then the third line is you put the outcome of the incident. And if you don't have it, you can put it later there. But anyway, it's very important to organize your paperwork. I didn't do that. Now, rule number 3, let me see here. Rule number 3 is that you do not talk to social workers or the police. You don't let them in your home. If a knock comes at your door, you ignore it because too many people have been killed answering the door from overzealous policemen investigating a domestic violence, and they shoot first, especially if you look threatening to them. And I know of specific cases that have happened recently. May 3rd was one, was a black Air Force man. They answered the door in Gainesville, and the sheriff shot him 5 times, and he died on FaceTime talking to his girlfriend. And no, the sheriff had the wrong department, the wrong house for domestic violence. And so, anyway, that doesn't bring the boy back. His mother's devastated. You know, she had brought him up all year to turn into something. He's serving our country, and he's now dead because you open the door. So the best thing to do is never open the door. And that's also been told to you as growing up: never talk to strangers, open the door. So that's one thing. Also, if a social worker talks to you, you're outside, or they want to ask you questions, then don't talk to them because everything you say will use against you. Instead, be courteous to them and tell them that you need to have your lawyer present before you go any further on legal matters. It's your constitutional right. You're supposed to be represented by a legal counsel. If there's a criminal matter involved, then it's your right to be protected because your lawyer will tell you what to do and what not to say. So you can ask that of them. You can ask that of them. And it's very important. It'll give you some time. If they leave a note on your door that they're knocking, then you can get back to them. But don't meet with them at their office or at your home because they'll be fishing. They'll be looking for things at your home to hold against you. Or at the office, they'll take your children, so don't bring them down to the office. You want to meet at a public place like Starbucks or McDonald's and talk about it. And that's the best way to do it. Now, B. Gress from somewhere in the world, it says it happens everywhere and was MK Ultra, so no one would find out. The Coast Guard. Um, I'm really confused now how the Coast Guard is involved with CPS. Maybe it's your place of employment you don't want them to find out, and that's why you don't want to say it. I'm only guessing here, B. Gress. But you can call in Angel Gone Wild. You can talk on 626-698-0990, or you can be a guest on my podcast. I'm not trying to push you or anything like that, but you're welcome to do so. I'm here to try to help you with your questions, relate some rules, and I was just talking about don't talk to social workers while in your home. The only way they can get your child is you give them permission to enter the home and you give them permission to take your child. Otherwise, they can enter it if there's domestic violence going on where the child's in danger. The police and the social worker can enter. Or if they have a warrant. Now, a warrant is a legal documentation that's signed in court by a judge that the sheriff or social worker will get to have some action done. So it's really important. They can't do that. Furthermore, there's medical trafficking that comes up all the time. And that's where you take your children into urgent care and into emergency room, and suddenly there's a social worker working there and they misheard something or misjudged it. They want to take your child. So do not turn them into social workers at the urgent care or the hospital emergency room. You don't want to allow anybody to take your child. And that medical trafficking goes on not only for sick children, but for ladies that are pregnant. They go and they have the baby. They sometimes want to take the baby because you need to test positive for drugs. No one has a right to take a child from you unless they have a warrant. You know, there's certain rules, laws that need to be followed. And it's sad how many people let their children go. They broke you in military training. Who broke you in military training? The Coast Guard, BGRAST, or was it CPS? So you're involved in CPS 8 years. You mentioned about a pedophile, so I figured you were sexually abused, but you couldn't say your story. Um, you'd be returned. So wow, that's a really complicated case. And you're 61, and look how it's affecting you. I'm 90. I'm 75. I just turned 75. I'm an old dinosaur, but I know how you feel at 61. I was there. That was the beginning of my CPS case, and so I know how you feel there. Now, rule number 4 is a really easy one. It's very important that you phrase your words correctly because you do research. You want to spend 60 hours researching the internet about your CPS case. And so it's very important you start out with how you phrase your words. You start off with the city, and if it's a small city like Athens, Georgia, you may want to put Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. So after you put the city and the state, then you put the letters CPS. That helps the internet look and focus on CPS. And then you put, what about CPS? You want to know the operational and handbook for CPS for parents? Do you want to know how to file a formal complaint against a social worker, either at the local level, the state level, or the federal level? Or do you want to know how to file a 388 motion? And sometimes the 3/8 in certain states, but not all states. But it's a motion that you have new information or changes that you want to enter into court, so it forces the judge to have a hearing within 30 days of your submittal of that. But maybe you want to learn about the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978 on the internet, or you want to know what kind of social workers are in that city or county. So that's what's really important. So you phrase it. So that's my rule number 4: spend some time on the internet. Now, rule 5 is easy. That's where you get an envelope and or a folder and stuff all your legal documents in there. Copies is fine. You can put in your birth certificates of yourself and your children, your marriage certificate showing that you're married, you and your husband, and then you put in your shot records of your children. Any medical records about you or about the children can be put in there. And then you want to put the school report cards, those kinds of things, anything about school records and so forth. And so you put all these important documents or copies thereof so that you have it handy. So that goes along with the notebook. So that's my rule number 5. I've covered, the 5 basic rules I wish I had had before I lost my children. Before I lost my children. Now I've talked about um, the 5 rules. I've talked about the 4 ways to interact with the podcast. And I've talked a little bit about myself, and I've talked a little bit about CPS workers. Now I have okay. Um, Now, what is called a castic record? I don't know what that means. A castic record, AKASKIC. Okay, and we're about a castic, uh, AKA uh, AKASKIC. SKIC. Oh, okay. Stochastic records are collections of memories of all events, thoughts, feelings, and actions that have happened since the beginning of time. Wow, that's pretty neat. I learned something new there. Thank you, B. They are said to be stored in acacia, a fluid either that exists beyond the human senses. Some believe that certain people, like spirits, mediums. Wow, this is interesting. And overcome challenges. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that there. Um, yeah, I agree. I agree. So you have a well thought plan, like I do. I remember things that goes way back in time. A lot of them are supplemented with pictures, but I can still remember if I very carefully go through my mind. So my mind's still good. Um, and I really want to help you, BG, and of course the other one there. Let me see, um, Angel Gone Wild. Let me see if I can reach one of my people here that might want to be. Um, her name is Faith, and she does a lot of podcasts with me. She's a single mother, and she has had two children. Unfortunately, one of them was stolen by CPS, and so
Hello.
yeah. Hi, Faye. I'm doing my podcast. We changed it from 8 to 10 this morning because Vincent has another podcast at 8. So I'm on right now live, and I'm talking with two people in the room: a bluegrass angels gone wild. And I thought maybe, if you ever heard the word, um, let me see here. Bluegrass is a man that was 8 years old dealing with a pedophile. He's 61 now, and he has what's called um, a castic record where he remembers everything. And
What?
yeah, it's a new term. It's called AKASKIC. And I looked it up. It's a castic. It's where some people can remember things and details about their life. So he's now reflecting back that, he's molested by a pedophile, and he's 61 now. And I guess it's something that's been bothering him all these years.
Uh, I can remember things from when I was 18 months old.
Wow, that's pretty intense. I've never seen that before. Wow.
Well, if there's trauma,
Yeah.
usually you can remember trauma.
Right, and I think trauma, being molested by a pedophile, is trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how you feeling today?
About as good as it's going to get.
Okay. Well, my podcast is halfway through, and I don't have anybody talking at the moment. I have two people texting, and I thought maybe you and I could do some things. You'd like to talk about Cora? Talk about some CPS questions and answers?
Sure.
Yeah, that's always good for me. Cora Digest is an application where People write in questions and then people answer the questions. And it's a it's a pretty interesting um, forum, and it helps with CPS cases. It helps with CPS cases, that's for sure. Now I have some questions here. Let me see. Let me see. Is asking. I don't know where to start. There's so many good questions. What are some human right violations to both parents and their child that a corrupt CPS could be liable for? How can I possibly fight against CPS? Can CPS take a person out of the home instead of the children? Can CPS take my kids just because I'm homeless? When CPS takes your child, where do they go? What do I do now that CPS has taken my kids and have lied in the paperwork to get the emergency court order? They refuse to answer my calls or texts. Does CPS ever remove teenagers? Why won't CPS allow you to record them when they're on your property? Do any of those sound that you'd like to explore?
Just pick one.
Oh, okay. I was looking for you to do the picking.
It don't matter to me which one you pick.
Yeah, they're all good ones, right?
Mm, some of them sounded interesting.
Yeah. Well, let me get back to the beginning here. Uh, well, here's comes up all the time. Can CPS lie to you? Well, this guy answered it. His name is Assistant. He's a bot. So this is, I guess, an AI person. But Child Protection Services, CPS, is a government agency tasked with ensuring the safety and well-being of children. While CPS workers are expected to act in the best interests of children and families, there can be incidents where misinformation or miscommunication occurs. Here are some important points to consider. This is really, this is definitely covering.
First off, there's a difference between misunderstandings, miscommunication, and outright ass lies.
Right, I agree. This is coming from a bot. Number one, intent and accountability. Most CPS workers are dedicated professionals who aim to protect children.
It hurts to even listen to that.
Oh boy. However, like any organization, there may be individuals who act unethical or provide misleading information. Well, Faye and I know that to be a true statement. I imagine my listeners will agree with that. Um, I'm having trouble seeing my mouse pointer. Let me try to get my screen open up wide. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay. All right. They have um, legal protection. You know, that's what's so bad. Is CPS operates under specific laws and regulations, and they're generally required to provide truthful information regarding their investigations and actions. However, there may be situations where they may not disclose all the details or may intentionally provide incorrect information. Well, so far this bot guy is not impressing me. Oh God, no! Hold on.
Well, no, he's actually explaining their job in the sense that, they do their job uncorruptly. But That's not how they operate nowadays,
No.
unfortunately.
His third point is rights and representation. If you feel misled or wrongful by CPS, you have the right to seek legal representation. An attorney can help you understand your rights and navigate the process. The problem is the attorneys they give you are court appointed attorneys and they're not very experienced, and the ones you really want cost you an arm and a leg.
Uh-huh.
And the fourth thing he says, documentation. And I agree, it's very important to keep records of all communication with CPS. This can help clarify any misunderstandings and provide evidence needed. And that's one thing I failed bad on my case was documentation. That's why I tell one of my rules is the notebook, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah. If you have concerns about a specific situation involving CPS, it may be helpful to consult with a legal professional or an advocate who specializes in child welfare issues. Well, I don't even think I'm an expert on that either. So,
I don't know. I've been doing this for like
yeah.
20 plus years. There's not much I don't know about CPS.
Okay, here's one, another one here. Um, what steps can I take if I believe CPS is not acting in my child's interests? Okay, well, that didn't go very well. They want me to do a subscription to Quora. Well, geez. Um, here's what the bosses just said: is document everything, gather all relative, and that's one thing that's important. You need to have all. My rule number 5 is you got to have all your important paperwork, which I've already talked about. You want to understand your rights as a parent, the rights of your child. That's where you're going to do research the internet. You write in your city, like in Faye's case, you put in Richmond, Kentucky, CPS, and then she'd type herself, what are my parents' rights involved? That's what you want to do because it varies from state to state, even from county to county. You want to communicate concerns clearly, reach out to your CPS caseworker to express your concerns. Well, that's hard. There's a lot of times they don't want to talk to you. Be clear and specific about why you believe the actions are not in your child's best interest. Request a meeting to discuss your concerns in person. Yeah, and that meeting should be at a public place. Don't do it at their office or at your home. And also, you want to go higher up and request a supervisor's review. If you're not satisfied with the caseworker's response, ask to speak with a supervisor. They may be able to address your concerns. Well, I went to supervisor after supervisor until I went to the top dog, the director. It's all a waste of time. 5, seek legal advice. Well, if you don't have money, it's hard to seek legal advice. Consult with an attorney who specializes in family law or child welfare. They can provide guidance on your situation and your understanding your options. 6, file a complaint. Well, Faye's done that. If you believe that CPS is acting unethically or failing in their duties, you can file a formal complaint with the agency. Check your state CPS website for appropriate process. So that's not much help there. 7, engage an advocate. Consider reaching out to a child advocate organization. They can provide support and guidance. Well, the ombuds person, the CASA, and uh, the guide and the litem are 3
They're all
advocates.
corrupt.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
I said they're all corrupt in my state. It don't do you no good to
Yeah,
reach out to any of them because they're all in each other's pockets.
right. They're all in their own bedroom. I mean, they'll give you all the information you say to the social worker. But it's interesting how in a real world, or not real world, but in an unpractical world, this may work. But anyway, at, number 8, attend court hearings. Well, they attended a court hearing, they didn't let her in. If
Yep.
CPS is involved in legal proceedings regarding your child, make sure to attend all court hearings. It's an opportunity to voice your concerns. Well, not only Faye missed a court hearing, My court in Orange County, they wouldn't allow me to sit in the court. I had to sit in the hallway the whole time. The only time I was allowed to come in is when they made a decision. So I never got to hear how my attorney performed. I never got to see how the social workers, attorneys, or the judge performed. It was all
At two of my court hearings, they did me that way.
they did. What in your court hearings?
Had me not didn't let me be involved in it. Made me sit out of it.
Right. Well, in Orange County, the SOP is the parents sit in the hallway unless they're asked to come in.
Yeah, but
And
see, that's not how it works in my state. Though, see, in my state, which is Kentucky, you sit in the lobby when you get to the court, and then the bailiff calls your name when your name comes up on the docket. Then you go in the court and you have your hearing. Well, well, I showed up for my court hearing and was called in the courtroom. Okay, my attorney went in, and the judge made sure everybody was there by a roll call or whatever. And then, like, literally 5 minutes after he called roll call and talked to all of his buddies in the courtroom, he says, "Oh, I'll brief recess." He says, "I'll reconvene in 10 minutes." He says, "Mrs. Manny, I'll have to ask you to step outside." He says, "I'll call you back in when I'm ready." And I'm like, okay. So I left the courtroom. I thought my attorney was going to come with me, but my attorney stayed. And I'm like, well, like, why do I was like, okay, that's weird. And so I went and I sat in the lobby like I was supposed to do. Well, 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes passed, 40 minutes passed, an hour passed, an hour and a half. And I was asking the bailiff, like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm supposed to be in there. I said, they're having a hearing, and I'm supposed to be a part of that. And I said, why am I sitting out here? He says, well, I don't know. Did the judge kick you out? I'm like, no. I said, he told me he was calling a recess and that he would reconvene in 10 minutes. I was like, can I just go in there? He's like, no, you can't. I'm like, oh my God. So I sat out there the whole time, and then finally my attorney come out, and I mean, he looked awful. He was pale. He looked sick.
wow.
Literally. Me and the people that was there with me, we just looked at each other like, what the hell? You know? And he was sweaty. He had sweat stains under his arms, down his back. I'm like, what is going on? I feel like I'm in some nightmare or something. And so he comes out and he says, I think we got a good chance to get you your son back. He says, because your son is, he's not been doing good since he's been in custody. He's lost a third of his weight. He's been hospitalized numerous times, blah, blah, blah. He's not in an adoptive placement. Nobody wants to adopt him. So we can probably get him back. He says, however, your daughter the judge is not going to budge. She's attached to the foster family. Foster family is attached to her. That was because they dragged my case out for 4 years. So,
wow.
and I was like, okay, well, my daughter wouldn't be attached to these people had they not drew out my case for 4 years. And I said, that's not my fault. That was on the captain's part. And he says, well, the judge isn't going to let her go. He's adamant she's going to stay with them. He says, I think we have an opportunity to get your son. Your son has special needs. He's autistic. He's not doing well. He's failing in school. He's disrupted in every place that he's been put in. He says, I don't think your son would fare well staying in the system for 7 more years. He said, and the judge then said that if he terminates on the baby, he's going to terminate on the boy. He said, so if you sign over your rights to your daughter, you can have your son. But if you don't sign your rights over to your daughter, then he'll take both your kids.
And the reason why they say that you cannot take care of your daughter, did they say you had bad parenting skills?
No, they didn't say any of that. The only reason was because my daughter was attached to the foster family, and the foster family was attached to her, and the fact that They were trying to claim mental instability, and I don't have any mental disorders.
Wow. Wow.
But here's the thing: if I was so mentally unstable I couldn't care for my baby, then why wouldn't I have been mentally unstable to care for my son?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after you give me back my child, my son, you put a foster child in the home with me, knowing I'm mentally unstable and I shouldn't be around children.
Yeah, that was when you told me that. That was really remarkable.
Right? So yeah, that's the wacky case I had.
Well, I tell you, Faye, I am really. I feel for you that. Sometimes I feel like I'm a hamster on a wheel with CPS. I'm running all the time but going nowhere.
Yeah. Uh-uh. No, nothing they do makes any sense.
Well, here's someone from Sarah who said that her ex was an addict and CPS involved in her custody battle. We're talking about the lie. Yep, they can and will lie on or about you. If they don't like you or need to make their quotas, see, they get paid for taking kids away. They get
Yep.
bonuses for doing so, or at least they did.
And
I'll,
they get awarded for doing it.
yep, they get incentives and bonuses. It's $1 trillion business for CPS. And 70% aren't in it for the right reasons. And that's terrible to say that 70% of the social workers aren't in it for the right reasons.
I don't know. I think that number's a whole lot lower than 70%.
No, that's the bad thing. That means 70% of the social workers are not in it for the right reasons.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they're in for the right reasons, mean they're not in it for the right reasons. Because
Uh-huh.
if you look up CPS, and she further says, and FBI investigations, you'll see all 50 states having issues with corruption, bribery, and theft of perfectly good children with good parents. Kentucky has had it happen. Apparently, in eastern Kentucky, there's still a big issue with small towns and judges there, but
Yep.
it's happening all over the state. I know of a girl who got into trouble. This is pretty good from Sarah. I'm glad I found this one here. Excuse me. Um, but it's happening all over the state. I knew of a girl who got in trouble for lying on her statements and having kids taken away that needed be to stay with a mom or dad. She made lots of money and only got suspended with pay.
Jerry Murphy.
Um,
That's who she's talking about.
yep, I think she probably is.
And 68% of children that are recovered by the FBI are foster kids
Wow.
from child trafficking rings.
Wow, 68%.
Yep.
It's hard to believe these young children that don't get to grow up to be adults or enjoy life. That is a big number there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what does SMH mean?
SMH shaking my head.
Oh, yeah. This is this Sarah girl. They lie and they have half-assed their jobs. If they realize they won't get anything out of it. The lady on my ex's case, let's see, um, half-assed our custody because he was an addict and the records she was given to look at. She only looked through one particular month of them instead of seeing the collusion of his therapist who said he staying sober was highly unlikely and that he needed more therapy and rehab, but he never got it and ended up sending my children with a meth head who was shooting up with my children in the other room. The court system is a joke, and so is CPS. Um, Video records, and I have witnesses on every single interaction you have with them. If you can say, get your lawyer to sit while you deal with them, do it. But never ever believe a word they say, because they'll use any words you say against you and will end up being the bad guy.
Well, listen to what happened to me. So, the first visit that I got was at a McDonald's with my kids after they were removed. And the foster mom brought her kids to my visit, which was really unusual, but she did. So we were all crowded around this little McDonald's table. I mean, like we were literally like elbow to elbow around this table. And so we're sitting there, we've been sitting there for a while, talking and everything. And I have neuropathy in my legs, so if I sit for too long, my feet will go to sleep. So I was like, oh, my feet's hurting. So I went to move my leg under the table, and I kind of like shook my foot. And when I did, I actually bumped my son's leg with my foot. Do you know when I went to the bathroom, the foster mom literally went and told the social worker that was watching us in the visit that I kicked my son under the table. She literally tried to make it look like I was trying to maliciously kick him.
Right.
So the visit got stopped, and I didn't even know why until after the fact. And then because of that little bump of me hitting him with my foot and them stopping that visit, not even telling me why they stopped it, I got a letter stating that I was being investigated for abuse. And because of that, they stopped my visits with my son for 4 months, where I couldn't see or talk to him for 4 months because of me accidentally bumping him with my foot.
Okay. Wow.
I was like, really? You all really think that if I was going to do something stupid like that, I would do it where you can see me do it? Like, what the? I'm like, wow.
Right. We have a returning person in the room. Her name is Michelle Portner. I know she's from uh, Atlanta, Georgia. Um, she said they use medical diagnostic as weapons. Their providers don't follow HIPAA. It's all illegal. She further says, as for your medical records from everyone who they give you counseling with. Okay, good. And Michelle also says legally the health care providers that provide you those services that diagnostic have to give you your medical records. And B. Grass says, I have some records. Michelle further says the name of the social workers, and if they care, aren't given resources to do the correct thing for reunification. You're right about that, Michelle. Michelle further says, so that even if 30% have good intentions, they have no resources or support to do the things for reunification. I mean,
And I find that even if there's 30% that
yeah,
have good intentions, it doesn't really matter because their supervisor is just going to tell them to do what they want them to do or else.
right.
So,
Well, Michelle Porter says they know this. Why does law enforcement and legal services support this? The only way to do this is to cut funding and incentives. Otherwise, Michelle says we'll all be here telling these stories 10 years from now. Look
oh
how
yeah,
look how long Bob um, and Vince have been on them. We've been on for long. I've only been about 15 years fighting CPS. I know you
25
probably
for me.
25 for you, and Vincent 35. So it's long times. They did McDonald's for me too. I guess they had her case at McDonald's. That's weird.
Mhm.
That's weird. B. Gress says, I was placed in an alien house. I saw their Hillcrest that happened there. Oh boy. And Michelle says, excuses and wasting our time to run the clock and to keep
Mhm.
the kids.
Yep. They stretch the cases out
Yep.
for federal funding
Right.
and to break the bond between parent and child to make them easier to adopt out because that's their actual end goal.
Right. And Michelle says these kids are not a game for money,
Yep.
but they think it is. B. Guess says they drug us so we will not tell. That's the thing about medical thing. And so there, I've reached at 11 o'clock. My show time's over. I want to thank B. Gress, the show partner from Atlanta, Georgia. And the other person was, let me go up here, Angel Gone Wild from Colusa County in Alabama. And most of all, I want to thank Faye, who gives up a little bit of her time to help you guys out there with her experiences. So God bless you all. I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock p.m. There'll be a brief message from Vincent Davis, my attorney. This is Bob and Faye signing off.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.